40 or 50 players in the mix, mentions character, Michael Maguire. It also change. Do we expect Madge to make a few big changes for this series?
Yeah, absolutely I do, Braith. And what I've liked about Michael Maguire from the moment he was announced as the new coach, replacing Brad Fittler, is that he's gone with that form is all that matters to me. Keeping in mind character too, I got that. But form when it matters is what is going to ultimately decide Michael Maguire's side. What are you smiling at?
Well, I'm just hearing you saying that, David. I'm thinking Dylan Edwards will be the fullback then. It's over the line. No discussion.
Well, you missed Tedesco's first 3 to 4 weeks.
He's been out, you know.
Yeah.
The same, that's all.
We'll get to that soon. Why different? What's going to be different, though, with Madge? I mean, every coach comes in and wants change or wants to set their own precedents and culture. And what's Madge going to bring that others haven't? And are you confident that he will do a good job?
Look, in all my discussions with former Origin coaches, New South Wales and Queensland both, you talk about Phil Gould, Wayne Bennett, Ricky Stewart, Mal Meninga, they all talk about the same thing. You've got to get the team right. 90% of winning an Origin series is getting the team right, getting the right players in the positions they need to be playing. And that was something, to be fair to Brad Fittler, that's just one thing he cocked up year after year. He was continually changing. He'd pick his team for game 1. He'd make 3 or 4 changes for game 2, and then he'd make 3 or 4 changes for game 3. If you look at the teams that win series, they generally only are making changes under necessity, whether generally it's only an injury or a suspension. There's very few changes made throughout a series based on form. Now, what that shows is, and this is, again, one of the reasons we would argue with Brad Fittler, and he'd get upset with us, is because when you would put out his team, first thing I do as a journo, and I'm sure you guys would do it as well, is you ring coaches around the game and say, tell us what the plan is, how are they thinking here, what are they looking at doing? And a lot of times they'd be like, mate, I don't know. If you're playing this sort of game, then why have you picked this guy? But if you're playing this sort of game, then why have you picked this guy? And that would then fulfil that destiny over the series. As blokes would be chopped and changed and in and out. And there was no clear plan about how they were going to beat Queensland from a New South Wales point of view.
Just on that, Kenty's right, where in the past week, Michael Maguire has already started the process of what do we want to look like as a team. He's been gathering the playmakers, and they're all candidates at this point in time, except with the exemption being Nathan Cleary. Last Tuesday night, New South Wales headquarters, the likes of Trebojevic, Tedesco, Nicho, Hynes, Mitchell Moses. The Penrith boys weren't there. They're on a bye week. The Souths boys decided not to go due to the current form of the club. However, Michael Maguire's already working on the game plan. So he's already coming up with what is required to beat this Queensland side with those players that may be needed.
Yeah, he can only really work on the game plan in mind of the player he's going to select or the type of player he's going to select. I think.
Let me tell you something about that, though, Braith. I remember talking to an assistant coach some years back, and I was talking to him and I said, "What are you doing now?" He said, "I'm just putting some notes together." It was actually for the Queensland game plan. And I said, gee, that's a long way away. They haven't even picked the team yet. Why would you be doing that for? And he said, mate, to be honest with you, he said the Origin game plans aren't that complex. And you know this better than any of us. They're not that complex. Origin is won by a very direct style of football and just a couple of little flourishes here and there. But they're not... my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is they're far less complicated than a normal NRL week-to-week game plan because it's all about just basically playing, getting over the advantage line, playing direct and trying to make the most when you've got momentum and trying to absorb it when you haven't got momentum. It's not that complex. And that's why I think Michael Maguire, that's why it comes down to picking the right characters in your team.
I think that's going to be a strength of his, though, because...
I do too.
You know, I think he won't worry about the outside noise or, you know, the flamboyant players or the player that maybe stand out to the fan. He'll pick the player that he wants, that he sees as a New South Wales Origin player. And he's got that because he's so tough in the way that he coaches and he's so relentless and he expects that from his players. I mean, I see him at the gym every morning. The guy trains like a beast. He naturally... lives and breathes it himself. So I think he would already be looking for those players. Players like Victor Radley, to be honest with you, players like that, to fit into that squad. So I think he's going to do a good job.
He'll have high standards, Braith. I think those standards in the last couple of years, the New South Wales camp, have slipped. I think we saw that. I think we saw the standards slip within that organisation.
How the standards?
Well, I just think the discipline slipped. I think as Kenny said, they got the team wrong a couple of times. And
You said the discipline slipped. How did
well,
the
I just
discipline
don't think they played well, Braith.
Well,
and I
there's
think
a period
that emanates from, they obviously haven't prepared well by the looks of it, from what I saw. I mean, that's just from an outsider looking in. My impression was that the standards were higher in the Queensland camp the last couple of years.
There was a period in the series last year where Tavita Pangai was controversially picked. A lot of people thought, again, he didn't have that mental sort of origin approach to the game.
He wasn't even playing that well.
He wasn't playing that well, and he's never sort of, while his talent is undisputed, his mental approach to the game has been questioned. And there was a period during the game where he was looking to the bench and he was signalling to come off. And Queensland had the ball, we're heading downfield. Now, that immediately, for most Origin coaches, that is a red line.
Is that a true story?
I just made it up for dramatic effect. What do you think?
Relax, mate.
No, but that's the point.
That's unheard of. That's unheard of.
That's my point.
That's unheard of.
That's my point. And New South Wales has allowed that sort of fragility to slip into their game plan at different times, into their performance at different times, and that's what's going to change. Like walking barefoot on the grass is not going to make you play better at Origin. It's just not going to help you.
It all stems from getting the selections right, though, Kenty.
That's what I said.
Bringing in the wrong people.
They all say that's 90% of the
They had
job.
a habit of doing the last couple of years. They got it right the first year or two. Then they just kept making blunders at the selection table, and it seeped into the team, and they lost series.
And then the players lost faith in that too, Reedy. A lot of players were losing faith in the way they're treated. You look at the way some of the players are treated when they're in the squad. And poor old Nicho Hynes, it was shameful the way he was treated. He sat there last year, he was picked on the bench, he got thrown on centre with 8 minutes to go, whatever it was. 2 tries go through, Cameron Munster spots him straight away. Now, forget the fact they got the interchange wrong last year. When Tom Trbojevic went off with that second HIA in the game, that qualified Stephen Crichton to come on as 18th man and play. The best defensive centre in the game. The coach's box didn't recognise that. What they did, they sent Nicho Hynes on instead. The one position he hasn't played in the back line is the centre. They went in on the defended centre. Munster spots it, goes through in twice, scores 2 tries. Queensland come from behind and win the game. And then Hynes is made the scapegoat for the loss, which was shameful that they did that.
All right, now, this year, selections, 5'8", who do they go with? You mentioned you're saying they blundered selections last year. Who do they go with in the number 6?
Well, I think that's why I like Queensland, Braith, because they've got real stability in the spine, and there's a lot of question marks over the New South Wales spine. I mean, I would have said Mitchell Moses, but he mightn't come back until a week or two before the team's picked. I think Nicho's probably the best option. But,
I'll be going to Jack Wighton and asking him.
Well, if Jack mightn't be available, though, Kenty, and what happens if Jack says no?
Well, I still think it's worth the question.
Yeah, Kenny, I'd still love Jack Wighton to come out and say, pick me, Madge. Yeah. I'm ready to play Origin for you. I haven't heard that. Cool. I haven't heard that.
That's fair.
And I'm with
Madge not spoken to Jack at all.
Madge has. Yeah. Madge has.
And how's that conversation
but Jack put it on the back burner. Said, Madge, I've got to focus on South first. Okay. Haven't played a game yet.
That probably hasn't helped the form.
Well, look at the current form.
Yeah.
And so how does Madge view picking South's players at this point in time? To Rudy's point,
Wighton's one of the few South players that you could walk away and actually be impressed with how he's played.
How desperate is that, though? You've got to go to some bloke who's retired. Surely there's options out there you can go to before you go to the guys who's retired. It's got a little bit of desperation about it.
Jack Wighton's he's an Origin player. And
he's retired, Braith. He's not an Origin player.
He's
retired. Or did he retire because he was burned by the previous
I don't know. You'd have to ask
Origin?
Jack.
Did he say that he would never come back?
I can't remember his last comments on it, Braith.
My understanding, he's definitely open to it.
But it says something that they've
But I just still want to hear it from him.
I don't think it's desperation because Jack's. I mean, he's even been in a team that's been struggling. He's been one of their better ones.
Michael Maguire, you say to him, if you're Michael Maguire and you have determined that he's your guy, you say to him, Jack, I'll pick you, but you've got to come out and declare you want to play.
Yeah.
But I'll pick you when you do.
Queensland have gone and got played. I mean, Alfie come back from the...
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but what do you mean all of a sudden it's desperate for New South Wales? It wasn't desperate for you, mate.
It was desperate for Queensland back then. Of course it was desperate. They rang a bloke who's playing footy in England.
That's why we're the underdogs this year.
That's
why we're the underdogs this year. New South Wales are the underdogs. That's why. What about Luai? Is he a chance?
He's always in the frame, but I think the game 3 showed that the Blues can move on there. They can move on. I think Nicho Hynes is a big body, guys. Like he's a big man who shows all the skill set. What's he done wrong? He's done nothing wrong to not be in the consideration to walk into this football team. Yep. To Reedy's point, I'm a big fan of Mitchell Moses. Kicking game, absolutely so important in Origin. But he plays one game. Currently, this is on the current return date. It's one game. Ironically, against Cody Walker, it's Parramatta versus Souths. One game before Origin teams pick, so that could be a matchup. But I'm with Hynes. I think he's ready, willing to go.
It is a tough call, probably his biggest call, Madge, because if you want to pick and stick and have a solid halves pairing, I know what it's like. I've been in and out of that bloody Blues team, like most halves over the past 20 years, and it's unsettling. It knocks the confidence out of you. You know, you want to know that if you're picking the 6 and 7, they're there for the series. And we say it every year, but it never really happens. So whoever they go with, they've really got to put trust into that combination. And really, I think you've got to do it sooner rather than later. But that's going to be hard, obviously, given the circumstances with players being injured.
Does Luai suit what Michael Maguire's looking for?
I mean, you've got Luai there. I don't know. You've got Luai there with Cleary. They've got that partnership and that relationship. I'd be happy with Luai in the team. It doesn't, I think Luai's a great player and he's been there before and he's got
Given
that
what
combination.
Michael Maguire's also
No, I
trying
don't.
to build,
I think you'd pick Jack Wighton over Luai every day of the week. I think he would. I think Jack Wighton is exactly what Michael Maguire stands for.
Look at you sitting there smiling.
I'm just enjoying the chat, boys.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
I can smell the desperation.